Hey, what's up? Dusk here. So I did a video breaking down the Ilphonic trailer bit by bit that talked about the gameplay mechanics that were revealed to us, showing off the Michael Myers shapeshift ability, as well as a little bit of the stalking and just some like running around and a few animations here and there. But this time I wanted to focus specifically on the shapeshift mode, shape jump, whatever it's called, and why this is the correct way to represent the Myers teleportation. I've heard that some people are a little unhappy with how this was done. I think a lot of people probably envisioned just an actual like teleportation where you would maybe have a map and you would just like pick a point on the map and then just like teleport there, similar to how Jason did in Friday the 13th, not with his shift jump ability, but with his long range map teleport ability, right? Where you would literally just bring up the map and pick a spot and you would kind of appear within an area, around where you clicked. And if you got lucky, you landed near a camper, right? And that's probably what people were envisioning with this, or where maybe you had some specific points like closets or dark rooms that you could just like aim and point at and then just kind of teleport there. And those are fine ideas, but they're not the best ideas. And those come with heavy drawbacks, where this method is actually much better in almost every single situation. And we know this because we have a game that already demonstrated this mechanic. If you're not familiar, last year, The Nightmare had this exact same mechanic. It was called Predator Mode, and it was by far like the shining crown jewel of that game. Like, this was the mechanic that made that game as good as it was. The whole rest of the game was kind of bad. The balance and like some of the escape objectives and the crafting wasn't too bad, but the crafting had a lot of balance issues. Like, there were a lot of fun bits in that game, but the ability of the killers in that game to walk around a corner, disappear, and then run around invisible very quickly and then appear around another corner made for some of the most amazing like gameplay moments. Like, it was really good. Of course, you don't want to take that as a one for one clone into Halloween. You definitely want to make some tweaks on that mechanic, and it's very clear that they have. For one, it's not nearly as fast moving, so you can't like zoom across the map incredibly quick, which is good because we probably want Halloween to have a slightly slower pacing as opposed to constant like reappear and disappear mechanically intensive moments. I think what we want is a much more cerebral, strategic sort of experience, but not a strategic experience that has such a high skill floor that 90% of Michael Myers are laughably weak, that lose every single match. You want your civilians to come in and feel afraid of Myers, even if there's a player whose skill is only just kind of like average. They should still be a threat on Myers. Now, they might still lose the match, but at least it should feel kind of tense. And then when you get a really skilled Myers in there, then it should be absolutely terrifying. And that's the really big drawback about picking a place to teleport, is you can waste a lot of time on bad teleports, because that means that you would have to spend a lot of time actually watching and studying players and figuring out their movements. And while that does sound cool, and I personally love the idea of it, that's how I was thinking about it at first. But it just doesn't really work, because that level of strategizing is extremely high tier. Like, you have to be the type of person who is naturally fluent at reading, human behavior patterns and being able to realistically predict, are they going to go upstairs? Are they going to be in and out really quick? What's their next move? Like, you have to be able to play in like real life with no other context clues, but just looking at people, and with like an 80% accuracy rate, constantly just go to wherever they're going to go next. And sure, there might be a group of players that could absolutely do that, and there probably are. But that's going to be a very small amount of the player base, right? So that would lead to like 80 or 90% of your Myers just constantly appearing somewhere and then nothing happened. And that's going to be boring for the civilian heroes, as they're called here. That's going to be very frustrating for the Myers player, who after a little bit is just going to start like rage teleporting and then uninstall. Like, it's just not a good game mechanic in practice. It sounds awesome on paper. What the shapeshift ability is going to allow you to do is to still reward that sneaky, stealthy stalking, because you don't want to give away that you're in the area, so that these civilian heroes behave more carelessly, that they run around a bit more rashly, that they aren't taking precautions because they assume you're not actually there. That's where the skill expression is going to come in for Myers. But a Myers that gives themselves away will still at least be able to more easily gather information by literally walking around and seeing where people are, and then being able to use that to do a much more educated guess on exactly what corner they need to be. It's just that they will probably be thwarted, but at least you'll have constant moments of Myers being able to come around a corner. And when you run into civilian heroes that are newer or more casual, they may not notice your activity as much or may not be as well prepared. And so your average Myers is still going to be able to murk your average player, or even better, stay away from those players and just do a really good job at killing the NPCs and avoiding the civilian heroes, which might be the goal that you go for. And what's really cool about that, and this is sort of a bit of a side rant, is that that is still very in line with how the movie played. You know, Myers his very, very first kill in the 1978 movie was completely off screen during the day when he kills the gas station mechanic. That's where he gets the overalls. And then later breaks into a hardware store and gets a Halloween mask. All happens off screen. Like, he does all this off screen stuff before he finally gets to the main event about going after some of the main characters, right? And when you're talking about a video game, that's the players, right? And they did a really good job of giving some pretty wicked visual representation of it too. Like, that is visually stunning to look at. Also, you know, with the lights and the houses and the pumpkins, and, you know, just the contrast between light and dark, with the dark areas literally being drained of color and having these sort of like grayscale look to it. Like, it's just visually stunning. They knocked it out of the park. And from a gameplay perspective, this is it. So, like, this is what you have to think about. It's like, do you want something that's going to be fun for about 30 minutes, and then you're like, oh, wait, this is a crappy game that's not any fun to play? Or do you want something that maybe doesn't play to the way you fantasized in your head, but then turns out to be like a really, really, really fun game with some good engaging moments? If you want the fun game with engaging moments, then this is what you want. Now, that said, I don't know what the rest of the game is going to look like. You know, it could be that bully squads are a thing. We saw Myers getting knocked over and then people standing around that looked like teabag fodder to me. And if you can't crouch, you know, people are going to do other things. They're going to spin on your body, whatever, right? So I don't know if the rest of the game is going to be good, but I do know that the shapeshift ability is perfect. Like, this was the correct choice. As we get more videos revealing more mechanics, I'll weigh in and give you my thoughts on those, but this one gets a thumbs up.